Hi there, it's Kevin with Gone Rogue Games. We got Bruce, it's never in the videos, and Zach and Chloe, and we got Buttons, and it's an exciting day here at the store because, I think I've talked about this before, our store is basically Commander. Like, the Commanderification of Magic really hit our rural area. It is hard for us to do drafts, it's hard for us to even do, I mean, pre-releases are okay. People who play pre-releases, they'll play the sealed. But it's very hard. We usually fire like one draft per set. So we'll get like an 8 to 12 pod draft, and then no one will draft. And same thing with Standard. Standard's absolutely dead. And all the other constructed formats are pretty much dead here, rurally. But what is very, very strong here is Commander. I mean, last night we were full. Every table we had was full of Commander players. And I woke up this morning and they finally did it. Wizards of the Coast released their brackets, which is actually pretty awesome. So I know there has been some pushback for Wizards of the Coast taking over the Commander format, and I admit it's kind of wonky. If you actually go and look at the brackets, it's kind of wonky. I'll explain it pretty short here, and then I'm going to give you my thoughts as a store owner. So this video is going to be directed at me as a store owner, how I am just loving this announcement. And then I might do a video over at the Rogue Deck Builder that is more what I think as a player. And I'm definitely going to do a video over the Rogue Market, breaking down what I think the financial implications of this announcement are, because I think they're actually huge. There are some, and maybe I'll just briefly go over that here with the TLDR, with what I'm seeing first glance of this new Commander format, I guess is what we can call it, the new changes to the Commander format. So let's just explain first what they did. They come out with brackets. There's going to be 5 brackets for the Commander format. And the first bracket is supposed to be silly decks. They're supposed to be worse than pre-constructed decks. They are not supposed to be decks that are trying to finish the game. It's just supposed to be a casual, fun way to play. And then whoever wins, what wins. You know, it's your typical, let's build just your pet cards, your little pet themes, and not really try to be a aggressive type deck that wins, you know, before like turn 10. That's basically the problem with this is there's not the greatest guidelines between 1 and 2. They're just given some, and they have said they're gonna flesh it out more. They're gonna announce more of how they want this format to go and take player feedback, which is awesome. It's like, I've had a lot of criticisms towards Wizards of the Coast because they did some, first of all, they were so hands-off for years, where all they seemed to care about was milking the community rather than actually creating community. Their organized play went down the drain. Their competitive play went absolutely down the drain. They overprinted everything. They didn't listen to any feedback. And it was just all about that meme of the house on fire and everything's fine and it's the community's the problem, everyone's the problem, Wizards of the Coast is fine, we're doing everything fine. And then they had that rude awakening in 2024. But I got to give Wizards of the Coast credit. They've done a very good job with many things like bringing back competitive play, bringing back organized play, getting people excited about Standard, getting people even excited about Modern. I hear even there's a resurgence in Vintage, which is just absolutely amazing, that we're bringing back all of these things that have been pretty much lost for a long time when Wizards of the Coast was focused on printing Lord of the Rings sets rather than focusing on their own stupid game. So anyway, back to the Commander format. So bracket number 1 is just supposed to be silly casual stuff. Bracket number 2 is supposed to be the level of a precon. And at the level of a precon, there are going to be cards that are not allowed at bracket number 2. So these are called game changers. You can go, I'll link the website or you can go Google it. And you can see the list of game changers. It's quite extensive. And you're not supposed to have any of those in your deck. And you're also not supposed to be running any sort of 2-card combo or looping extra turns or be tutor heavy. Those things are supposed to be not allowed at tier number 2. And then in tier number 3 is called upgrade. So it's like taking a precon and optimizing it. We're upgrading it a bit. And you're allowed 3 game changers in the deck list. And I believe 2-card combos are legal, but, oh, so Zach's actually got a thing here. He's printed off. So I'll read from it. But you're not supposed to have no chaining extra turns. You can have late game 2-card combos, and you can have 3 game changers in your deck. And no mass land denial. And I'm assuming they're going to put some stacks type effects in there too, or, you know, the shutting people out type cards in this upgraded format eventually. Number 4 is optimized. There's going to be a ban list for Optimize that are only cards that are available in CEDH. So between 4 and 5, there's just going to be, I'm assuming, different ban lists. And 4 is supposed to be like the hardcore Commander players that are trying to finish the game quick, like turn 4, turn 5, turn 6 type decks. That's what Optimize is supposed to be. And finally, bracket number 5 is CEDH. So I don't know exactly where they're going to go with that, if they're going to continue with the ban list they have now, or if they're going to relook at some of the cards and be like, okay, this is legal in CEDH because CEDH is like an anything goes format, very similar to Vintage. And therefore, you know, ban list is not the direction we want to go. People can just go as hard as they want. So I'd even assume like cards like Black Lotus could easily be unbanned in something like CEDH. So anyway, that is kind of the gist of what's going on. So as far as the market's concerned, this bracket number 2 is actually creating a mini reserve list, which is awesome. Not quote unquote reserve list, but one of the things that is really affecting the prices of Commander cards are these. So they're printing at least 2 decks per set. And they didn't even skimp out on things like Modern Horizons. Modern Horizons had decks. So Wizards of the Coast is printing these Commander decks, because there's a huge demand for this product. It is just, I was actually watching the video by EDH Rec, and they were doing some analysis on deck lists that have been put into their system, and they've actually noticed a downward trend of power level of decks being submitted to EDH Rec. And he was kind of curious of why this is. And I can tell you, as a store owner, why this is. Commander is so much more casual than it was. Like, it started as an extremely casual format. I think it ended up getting a lot of people that got kind of hardcore in the format, and now it's going back to being an ultra casual format. And a lot of people love to pick up precons and build decks around those precons. It's almost like a pre-release for them, for the Commander players. They get to enjoy the new Commander cards, they get to play the new mechanics, and they get to slowly upgrade those decks. And we sell a ton of these decks. And one of the things it does, though, is it absolutely destroys the value of any cards that are reprinted in the Commander decks. And so it's always like a crapshoot if you're like holding on to cards. Like, again, I'm not this massive speculator. I'm a store that wants to hold on an inventory of cards, but I also don't want to be left carrying the heavy bags. I don't want to be carrying on inventory of cards that are just going to continue to get crushed by reprints and reprints and reprints. So we have changed our tone of what we keep here in stock here at our store. And again, you got to think this is my perspective. One of the advantages of having a store is having people that come in and want to buy specific things. And so it is vital for stores to be carrying an inventory of those said things so that customers can actually purchase them. It just boggles my mind, all of these stores that do not carry singles. I mean, it's just, I wish I was in an area that I could just rely on people coming in and buying board games, or coming in and buying card sleeves, but we have to, like, the only way it works here in our rural area is we become the secondary market. We take a lot of trade-ins, we sell a lot of cards, we become the market of where magic is done. And that is the bread and butter of this operation. Is by far the highest profit margins. It's by far the best way we can circulate inventory. And you know, we get a lot of like trade-ins from Commander decks that come back in, but one of the things that we have to be careful about is not holding on to too many cards in case they get crushed, especially by these Commander decks. So other sets can typically, like Eldraine, Wilds of Eldraine, Brothers War, they crushed a lot of value of cards in that slot, in the Enchanted slot, as well as in the Schematic slot for Brothers War and Wilds of Eldraine, respectively. But nothing crushes prices like it getting reprinted in a Commander deck. So this Game Changers, if they're going to stick to this core, this number 2 being core, of not having any Game Changers allowed in core, that means there is a mini reserve list now of, and that's not the right way to, that's not the right analogy to say. I probably reserve this is the wrong way to put this. But now there's this mini list of things that cannot be reprinted in these Commander decks. And so as a store, I'm going to be a lot more likely to stock up on those type of cards and carry them, because I'm not going to be worried they're just going to print a Heuristic Study in the next Commander Masters Commander deck. And you know, maybe they'll throw me a fastball here and say, okay, precons from Commander Masters 2 are actually not core. They're considered 3. So we do have to be warned about that, because I can definitely see Wizards of the Coast, you know, again, pulling a fast one on us with that. So anyway, I am actually quite excited with this change. I think it's going to bring some fresh air, a breath of fresh air into the format. Now I said that I talked about how this works as a store owner. So we have just had open play for Commander. We've tried Commander tournaments in the past. We've tried doing F&M for Commander. We've tried running a lot of Commander events, and it just became such a pain in the ass with dealing with people when everyone thinks their deck is a 6. Like, that's kind of the meme here with Commander, is everyone underrates the power level of their deck. And you always get those guys that come in with their almost CEDH decks, their highly optimized decks, and will just lie through their teeth, or at least, I mean, they believe it. They believe that their decks, because they played against some really tuned CEDH decks before, and so their decks aren't a power level 10. They've seen a power level 10, and they always end up ruining these organized events, is these particular people, because no one can ever agree on what the power level of their Commander decks are, and it creates these just tension and bad pods and bad experiences and people that don't want to play with particular people. And so that's why we've just done open play and let people just decide who they want to play with. What this does now is this allows us as a store some heavy guidelines here to now run events. Now I can say we are going to run a core event. We are going to run a upgraded event. We're going to run an exhibition event. And people can build their Commander decks accordingly and show up to event, and we can run it just like an F&M or just like anything else, without all the bickering, without all of the frustrations, without all the rage quittings because of someone played a stacks deck. So this is awesome for Wizards of the Coast to do. And again, there might be some wonky things that end up happening, or some people might start arguing about. I know there's already been on the interwebs some people arguing about these game changers. How come this is a game changer? How come this is not a game changer? Okay, but at least there are some. This is a good step. There are some guidelines. They've given us these brackets, and it's given us a clear path forward as far as how events are concerned and how stores can start running things. And the same thing. Now you go to the Magic cons. This can be great too, because now they don't have to have their dumb little, oh, this is a power level 8 table. And you don't have the same nonsense of someone having this close to a CEDH deck and calling their deck a 6. And it happens every time. I want to know how in your area, how that is too. And again, like so many people said, oh, Kevin, you would enjoy Commander so much more if you had like a group of friends you played with. Okay, I don't. And I'm a store, and I'm focused on getting random people to play with each other. That's the whole point to having a store. It's a place to congregate and meet people through Magic. It's not a place to come and play in your good old boys club. And that's the same thing when I go to conventions and events. Nothing actually, I have some stories about that. I used to travel with friends to like board game conventions or to Magic conventions, and we would travel all the way to Vegas or all the way to, Denver or something, and we sit in our same pod that we played here locally and play Magic or play board games. I'm like, what is the point of coming all the way to this? I mean, of course there's events, but I'm talking about more like the board games, and like nothing is like that's the whole thing. I think what the point of a local game store is too, is it takes it away from the kitchen table of where you've been playing in your little pods, and you get to actually meet other people and congregate with other like-minded Magic players that you wouldn't experience in your own little pods, in your own little kitchen table things. So this gives us a nice way to actually run Commander tournaments with a bunch of strangers without all of the headaches that used to be associated with the Commander format. So I've talked about this before, like in Constructed, you have 1 versus 1, it's you and an opponent, you win, you lose, it's very cut and dry. You can feel good about beating someone because that's the whole point of it. Whereas Commander was all about fun. And with strangers, that's a lot harder to achieve. With strangers with 1v1, who cares? Who cares who the scrub in front of you is? If you crush them, you lose, whatever. That's the whole, you don't really care who your opponent is. Commander, you do want that social aspect. So I'm glad they've given these guidelines for Commander, and I'm really, really excited going forward on where this format is going to take us. And again, the financial experts will have to do a deep dive into some of these cards that are on the game changers, and now this is going to give Wizards of the Coast some restrictions too on how they print cards and how they actually create decks. Again, I'm pretty sure we're going to see a lot of this sort of thing happening in their pre-constructed decks or in their products going forward. Anyway, I'd like to ever know anyone's thoughts on this Commander format. You think it's a good change or a bad change? You can always comment in the comment section below. But I gotta get cooking some pizza. I promised everyone on board game night that I cook some pizza, so we'll get to it. Thanks for watching.